Hello everyone, my name is Raven Dixon and I'm thrilled to welcome you back to another episode of YWCA York's new talk segment, Let's Talk. This project aims to create a series of monthly videos featuring members of YWCA York and leaders to discuss relevant and important topics to help engage our local community. I'm looking forward to sharing today's empowering episode of Let's Talk, and I encourage you all to join us and partake in these important conversations. With that being said, let's talk. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk. Today I am here with
Vanessa Kohler.
And I'm Joni Wolf.
Okay, so good to see you guys. Okay, so today's topic on Let's Talk, we are talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So diving right into our first question, what is domestic violence?
Domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior such as controlling behavior and asserting your power over someone else, your intimate partner, a family or household member, things like that. And they do it through physical means, hitting, punching, things like that, even emotional, or mental use such as name calling, swearing, those types of things. And it's all about asserting power and control over someone else.
What are signs of domestic violence in a relationship?
So it really ranges. Like she said, it's sometimes physical and sometimes it's verbal and mental. So it can range anywhere from the start of it starting is an individual, a partner comes to you and tells you, I don't like what you have on today. It can start minor, and it's so easy not to know the signs because in that situation, you're kind of like, hey, maybe I am being too revealing. Maybe I'm not dressed right. So you don't really pick it up. But then it starts with that little thing and then it escalates to, who are you talking to? Why'd your phone go off? Like it's
criticism.
Exactly. And then it progresses. And sometimes we see that it progresses into physicalness. And that first time they tend to do it. And then you're just like, you're upset and you're hurt and you're just like, what did happen? And then they come in and with that apology, like, it'll never happen again. I'm sorry. And that's basically, and you love that person. You can't believe they did that. And so
it's like a cycle.
Exactly. And then before you know it, you find yourself in that pattern where it's happening and it's happening. And then when you get too far into it, it's easy to just not even notice.
And with that, would you say that victims of domestic violence oftentimes don't realize, or do you think like their families tend to realize it before them?
So it just depends on the victim themselves and the type of relationship they have with their family. If they have an open relationship, in the beginning of the relationship, we tend to see that, victims that come to us will say, I lost contact with my family. I pulled away. I didn't want them to know. I knew it was wrong, but, I made excuses. I love him. And then other times it's happening right in front of the family and they don't even notice it. Domestic violence isn't something that is communicated enough in society. So like what I said earlier about the phone and stuff like that, if he's showing signs or she's showing signs of that in front of people, if they don't recognize domestic violence and they haven't been in it, to them it would just be like, oh, he cares about her. Oh, she cares about him. It's overlooked unless you know what to look for.
Gotcha.
And I think one of the other signs that we see first and foremost is that financial abuse aspect where they aren't allowed to control money, or if they go to the grocery store to buy food for their family and they come back, they automatically need the change. They're not able to, even if they started that relationship, maybe the one partner is like, oh, I'll get this. I'll start paying your bills. You don't need to worry about that. So we see that kind of stuff happening first before we ever get into any sort of physical altercation or physical abuse.
So like a snowball.
Yeah. So it really starts out small, with that financial piece. Then it's the isolation piece that we see, oh, those friends aren't good for you. They don't believe you. They're, not there for you. And really isolating them. And those are the first signs of what we really see in an intimate partner relationship when there's really unhealthy and behaviors that can lead to abuse.
Thank you both. So in light of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, what are some key events or activities that YWCA York is hosting or has planned for Domestic Violence Awareness Month?
Well, we have a really exciting month going on this month. We already had our press conference earlier this month announcing Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it was a really fun event. We had political leaders there. That was really fun and there for support. We also follow the national movement. Everyone knows someone, and that just shows there's always a survivor in the room. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and about half of our LGBTQ individuals experience domestic violence. So there is a very big chance that you know someone. And so what that initiative tries to do is really connect people to understand that this is a huge issue that your loved ones and maybe even yourself could be dealing with. We also have other initiatives going on. We also follow Purple Thursday, which is October 17th. We are going to try to form a human purple ribbon. So on October 17th, register at any of our social media, our YWCA York website. We're there to register. Come and help us create a huge purple ribbon. We're going to just create a huge purple ribbon and get some aerial shots. We will be at Smalls Field at 11 o'clock. So come join us, register on any of our social media. It's going to be really exciting. Then on October 24th, we are going to be having a disconnection event as well as a candlelight vigil. So our disconnection event is all about connecting our people that have been affected by trauma and understanding they can usually feel very disconnected from their community because maybe they weren't believed, or maybe their abuser is someone prominent in the community and they're very scared to come forward. This is art installation that come and decorate a little disc, and we are going to show you all the discs that people have made to show you that you are all truly connected in all of this. And there's there for support. So come on October 24th. We're going to have a candlelight vigil and the disconnection event. That's going to start at 5:30 and our vigil is at 7. And so that's what we have going on this month. And it's going to be really, really special.
It sounds like a very empowering month.
Yes. So the vigil is always very special because we do honor those who have lost their lives to domestic violence. Because unfortunately in York, we had about 3 or 4 that lost their lives this year. So that's very unfortunate. So we really want to honor them and their families with what they've lost.
Well, it's really good to hear that there's events to help honor their lives and help prevent things like that from happening.
Yes.
Can you share some insights into the impact of domestic violence on individuals and how YWCA York is working to address these issues?
So, I said the statistics earlier. 1 in 3 women experience, 1 in 4 men experience, and about half of LGBTQIA individuals experience some sort of intimate partner violence within their lifetime. And so, again, that just shows that you know someone, or maybe even yourself, has gone through it. And so it's really important for all of us to really either check what we're doing, check ourselves and our behavior. Is that adding to this issue? Is that adding to their trauma? And understanding that maybe why they don't find that joke funny or why they don't want to do something like that. And just coming together for support rather than judgment or anything of what their experiences are. Also, YWCA York, we recognize that, domestic violence costs our economy about $156 billion a year.
Oh,
yes, it is a huge, for loss of work, for people that maybe can't go to work because of injuries, things like that. It's estimated that they lose about 80 hours a year due to domestic violence. So it's a huge economic burden on all of us and all of our community. So we really, at YWCA York, try to be proactive. And Vanessa here is one of our prevention educators. So she goes in and works with youth to try and be proactive to prevent violence from starting in the very beginning. Talking about healthy relationships, talking about boundaries, those types of things.
I'm building from that.
Yeah. And I'm not the only one. Like I work primarily with 7 through college I work with. And my coworker Tiara, she works with pre-K through 6th. And, we try our hardest and we separate it that way because it's so many schools in York to touch on. It's so many different ages to touch on. So we do it that way and we split it, but we really do come together to talk to all of them together. Like I know her curricular, she knows mine, and it touches us because, when we go into these schools, you don't really think about domestic violence affecting children. That's not the aspect that you hear about when you hear about the domestic violence situations going on, but they do. Even if it's not being inflicted on the child themselves, they're being exposed to it. Mm-hmm. They're recognizing this behavior. They don't know how to identify this behavior. So then you're also teaching them that behavior, and it's going to affect how their relationship is with everyone else in their life. Mm-hmm. So it's important to, advocate that to the teachers, teach them how to handle these situations, who to contact when they are faced with these situations or they suspect something. And then on top of it, notifying the kids as well, like the teenagers, because domestic violence doesn't just happen with adults. It happens with teenagers, and the numbers are extremely there to back it up. And it's sad, but it does start in that teenage years because the brain's not fully developed. Mm-hmm. The frontal lobe is not there. So they don't know what these signs are. They're thinking that it's normal. Yeah. And if you're not telling a child or teaching a child what a healthy relationship is, they're easily going to be able to be introduced to an unhealthy relationship.
Thank you. What resources and support devices does YWCA York offer to individuals affected by domestic violence?
So we offer a slew of resources provided to any victim in York County. We have run a 24/7 hotline that a person answers the phone. You don't have to dial this number for this person. It's, hello, how may I help you? Which can be really reassuring for our survivors calling for the first time. So a lot of people tend to think of a lot of our residential services, like our emergency shelter. We have transitional housing where a survivor can stay for about up to a year, and that's in one of our apartments. And that really helps them get that next leg up and be able to stand on their own 2 feet on their own, because that's really what the goal is to be able to be on your own and not necessarily need us. Yes, we will always be here for you, but we also want you to stand on your own 2 feet on your own, because that's what the goal is. We have counseling services, so we can do individual and support groups as well. We have legal advocacy services. So we have legal advocates that will sit with you and help you do a protection from abuse order if that's what you want, and really help you go through the whole legal system. If you're going through a trial, maybe your perpetrator has charges and they need you to testify, we can have a legal advocate sit with you and follow you through that whole court process, so you have that support, and you maybe need something else that needs to be explained to you, some language necessarily. So we can have people do that. We also have attorneys on staff that can help you with any sort of custody or divorce types of things. Then we have a medical advocacy part, which is very similar to kind of our legal advocacy, where instead of doing it in the legal law enforcement aspect, we do it in the healthcare system. So we're working with our local hospital systems to provide support for our survivors that go into our area hospitals, doctors' offices, when they get disclosures we see a lot of OBGYNs that call us, women coming in that are pregnant that are like disclosing domestic abuse. Mm-hmm. So we can get those times in with those survivors at those appointments. We can work with them. And then we have our community education department, which we're part of, which we're really tasked with taking our mission out into the community, creating that awareness, as well as providing educational trainings to professionals, to community members, all of those types of things.
I didn't even know half of these services existed.
I know, we kind of do a lot of stuff around here. And the great part is, if we don't know, we can help you find what you need. It's not going to be like, oh, we don't do that, click. It's going to be like, oh, let's work together to see what your needs are, because maybe we may not be the best people, and that way I can steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, I love the proactive approach as well. That's very important.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. We really want to stop violence before it starts.
Yeah. I think that's what discourages a lot of people, is like they're scared to pick up that phone and be like, oh, well, is this what, do you guys help with this? And then even if we don't, they're normally getting hung up on. Yeah. And they're told, we don't deal with that, sorry. Yeah. But we don't turn anybody away. We try our hardest to help them with any situation that they can. And if we can't help them, we work with them to find out somebody that can. Because they are a person in need. Yeah. And you shouldn't turn somebody away when they are coming to you for help.
That's very impactful. That's important too. What are some common misconceptions about domestic violence? And how is YWCA York working to dispel these myths?
This is actually something we work at every day,
Okay.
especially us in community education. We're constantly out there in the community trying to push our mission of eliminating racism, empower women, and peace, justice, and freedom and dignity for all. We're really trying for that. And that means so much to our survivors because we're really trying to work not only with them as individuals, but with the bigger community, with all of the systems that are in place, our school systems, our healthcare systems, our legal systems, our law enforcement, all of those types of systems can sometimes work against each other. And so what we try to do as advocates is really work with that individual and help guide them in the direction that they may want to go. There is no standard plan of what works for a victim because everybody's situation is unique.
And I think it has something to also add in here, like a lot of people ask the questions of why did somebody stay? Like when you see a news report, it reaches that media and then everybody looks at their story like, well, why'd she stay? Why did she allow that to happen? Or why he allowed that to happen? And it's not for you to question.
Yeah.
Unless you're in that situation, you don't know what that person went through mentally. You don't know how they were feeling. It's important to not judge them. And that's a big thing with domestic violence is judgmental. It creates a person to shut down. It makes them feel invalidated. It makes them not want to come forward. How you deal with somebody's situation affects the ability for the next person to come along and ask for that help. So here at YWCA, when we have victims that come to us that disclose to us what they've been through, it's important for us to validate it because the goal is that they get out of that situation. And when they get out of that situation, it changes them.
Yeah.
So everybody knows somebody that's in a domestic violence situation or has. So when they get out and they deal with and they meet somebody else or they bump into someone else that might be going through it, they can direct them here to us and tell them, hey, I've been where you were. I went to this agency, this organization, and they worked with me and they helped me. And that's the goal. So it's just opening that door and really knocking down that stereotype.
And I think that goes back to the point of like, what can you do? Can anybody do? And that goes back to the point of checking your own biases and, are you contributing to the issue? Are you making that joke? Are you making that judgment of why did they just stay? Well, maybe they weren't, like Vanessa said, maybe they weren't allowed to work. We don't know that. We don't know what their situation is. We don't know. And until you're in that situation, there's nothing that you are allowed to say.
You have to validate them.
It's their experience, and as advocates, you believe them.
Thank you both. In what ways can individuals and organizations collaborate with YWCA York to help promote a culture of nonviolence and support victims of domestic violence?
The biggest thing I can say is just get involved in your local community. YWCA York always has events going on that you can always be part of, not just here in Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but all throughout the year we have events going on. So I really urge people to get involved, schedule a training, reach out to us, reach out to your local center and get involved.
And for me personally, I just started in my position back in June. In the same aspect, starting in this position, I've realized that Google searches are so easy. We Google search simple things every day. February Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. I Googled it the other day and there's so much going on that month. And if you just Google those things or even Domestic Violence Awareness Month, there are speakers. We won't tell people's personal stories, but they will. And there are speakers and it's just searching and you'll find them. And most times it's free. Or it's not that expensive because nobody wants to charge to tell their story.
Right.
And they're moving. It won't be as powerful for us to tell somebody's story as it is for them to tell it because it is their success story. So.
And that's important too, to hear it from that person themselves. So that's their journey.
Yeah. And I really always challenge people to check yourself because if we can't change ourselves, we're not going to be able to change everything else around us.
Absolutely.
It has to start with us. So really check yourself, check your biases, attend something, step out of your comfort zone, and all of that stuff.
And also don't be afraid to tell one of your friends. If it's something that you're trying something new, invite somebody to join with you, because you could be in charge of changing somebody else's perspective.
Right.
Come down and be a part of change, because that's what we're doing here. That's what we're trying to do. So
I did want to circle back. You guys mentioned the trainings. What do those or the educational services like entail for people?
Well, we can provide a slew of trainings for anybody interested. You can check them out on our website, YWCAYork.org. And community education has a list of trainings such as any sort of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, those 101 type presentations, those general awareness things that we can do. We can also do trainings where we implement specific skills. Maybe we have a professional group that are counselors or human services workers. You know, we can tailor a training specifically. Maybe they're dealing with youth. We go in and train them on, okay, this is a specific set of skill. So when someone discloses to you, what do you do then? What language do you use? What language do you really stay away from? Because we know that any sort of slip in our language, it could, you know,
Be very impactful.
And maybe that what we said, it means they came to us or they did not come back to us. We are not expecting everybody out there to be perfect advocates. This is why we're here. Connect them with us then, and we will help take over.
exactly.
How can we work together to ensure that the voices of survivors are heard and valued throughout the year beyond just Domestic Violence Awareness Month?
There's a lot of stigma around bystanders in every situation that there is in life. And you really have to ask yourself, what am I doing if I'm just a bystander? If you see something happening, if you have an inkling and you don't speak on it, what can come of it if you don't? Like, who is it hurting? And it's really asking those tough questions within yourself. It's questions that I had to ask myself when I was a teenager, every stage of life I went through. And for me personally, it came down to, I don't want to be a bystander. If I have an inkling or I have a feeling or I see something and I don't speak on it, I won't feel comfortable with myself at night. So it's just about, if this is something that you know is going on and you feel so strongly about it, like Joni said, take a training. Like, it's really that simple. Or just educate yourself and do some research, because with our trainings, we will make sure that we hit all the bullet points that we possibly can to make sure that you are educated and able to feel confident when situations like this arise for yourself or someone you know.
Thank you.
And I think saying something, like if someone ever tells you something, I think you don't even have to have the words. I think even if you just say, I have no idea what to say to you right now, but I'm really glad you told me. Just sitting with that and validating what that person's experience are is so powerful and so moving. You don't have to have the word. You don't have to fix it for them. You don't have to do anything. Just listen and say, I have no idea what to say to you right now, but I'm so glad you told me. I'm so sorry you have been dealing with this. Those words go so far with survivors. And I think if you say those types of things and you're just like, I don't know what else to say, but then just get them connected to local services, your local experts, and they can help out from there.
Giving them that power, like validating the strength that it took them to come forward to you, is so important too. And I say it to every victim that I've come in contact with, like, you are so strong for coming up and saying and telling your story, because it's a hard thing to go through. And then it's even harder to admit and talk about. And you have to validate that strength. You have to recognize it. You have to say it. Like, you have to tell them that, because if you don't tell them that, they might feel it, but it feels so good to hear somebody validate it and tell you to your face, like, you are strong.
There's that relief.
Yeah. Exactly. Because no matter what they went through or what they took in from that relationship, they're like, okay, yeah, I went through some horrible things, but you know what? I'm still here. And that right there has enough power.
It's moving, yeah. I believe that's like the last of my questions. I did want to ask if you had any remarks that you'd like to say about Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
It's an exciting month. We've got a lot of fun stuff going on. I urge you to follow us on all of our social media, check out our website, attend a training, schedule a training, attend one of our events. The Human Purple Ribbon, our Disconnection and Vigil is going to be really exciting. So we hope to see everybody there.
Yeah. And if you can't make it and, you know, life happens, even if it's you just sharing it with someone else, like, that makes a difference in the world too. Like, bring it up in conversation at the dinner table, or bring it up when you're sitting at lunch with your coworkers. Just spreading it and making everybody aware that it's going on will help us tremendously, and help those that are actively in unfortunate situation or has gotten out or is getting out.
Well, I want to thank you both for being on today's episode of Let's Talk. I really appreciate it. And I think this is a very important topic for a lot of individuals to know about.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of Let's Talk. We hope you found the discussion valuable and thought-provoking. Remember to follow us on all our social medias and hit that notification bell so you can be updated when we post new episodes. Your feedback is important to us, so please leave your comments and suggestions down below. Let's keep working towards positive change together. Thank you. And until next time, I'm Raven Dixon. Let's keep talking.